Welcome to yet another episode of The Guy Doing Things. This is episode number 28. And in South Africa, we are on level 2 of lockdown for now. So enjoy it while it lasts. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, get your coffee ready. This is going to be a cool episode. And even if you're not a man, this is also some pretty valuable insights. Please do like it and share it. If you don't like it, let me know so I can change it. But for the next few minutes, allow me to indulge you with The Guy Doing Things episode 28. It's so nice to have you. You're going to introduce yourself now, but all cards on the table. The first time I saw you, I was deadly afraid of you. It was in the Drakensberg Mountains. We were doing a hiking tour, and I just saw this huge guy, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to talk to him this whole weekend, because if you say something wrong, he'll throw you off the mountain. Needless to say, it's 2 or 3 years past now, and we're actually really good friends now. I got to know you. I'm glad we're friends and not enemies, though. But yeah, welcome so much. Welcome very much on the Guy Doing Things.
Thank you very much, Thornton. It's a privilege for me to be part of your podcast. If you were afraid of me, I did my job. I was born and bred in the south of Joburg. I moved to Pretoria about 14 years ago when I met my wife, Nadia. And I collect bad debt for a living. And I do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
Well, I did that before I gave my heart to God.
Yeah.
And so now I've got a different outlook on life. I still like it when people are afraid of me. It means that it's an intimidation tactic.
Yeah.
And but what I do for a living is I basically collect bad debt. I'm actually an entrepreneur. I can sell anything, anywhere.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the biggest reasons I actually wanted to have you on the podcast. I saw that you got into the wood industry, and I've actually wanted to build a Swedish torch. Not my whole life, but the past few years I saw how they built one, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build a Swedish torch and make brunch or lunch on it. I'm really looking forward to that. But tell me, how did you realize that you're good at selling things? Because it's not only wood, it's generators, it's it's a whole bunch of stuff, and you're really good at it. How did you discover that talent?
Well, discovering that I could sell anything is, I think, as soon as I could start talking, I would be able to sell anything to my brothers. But because we're 4 brothers, so we grew up, very feisty with each other, and I don't know, it was just something that came naturally to me when I was young. I could sell anything to anybody. I would take something, maybe buy it, and then a few days later, I think maybe it's because of my nature. I don't believe in the star signs, but I am a Gemini, so I get bored with things very quickly. Yeah. So I would buy something today, and then I would sell it tomorrow. My wife knows that since she met me, I would buy something today, a week later I would sell it and make a profit of it.
Yeah.
So coming to the wood, in the beginning of the lockdown, it was a scary time. Yeah. Because with my work, you don't, there was no income for nothing. I didn't have no income, and having 2 kids, a wife, having a house, medical aid, you need to survive. And being a Christian, you need to make sure that you do things the right way. You don't go into doing things illegally. So I just we were praying one night, and we got the scripture where God says that you need to make sure that you harvest the ground. You need to be busy.
Yeah.
Because when the blessing comes in, when the rain comes, that you've harvested the ground.
Yeah.
So then the blessings will start. And I actually went to one of my friends one day, and we were chatting, and they gave me some wood, and they said, listen, God just said we must give you some wood. And I'm like, why don't you sell the wood? And they're like, the time is not right to sell it now, it's lockdown. And I said, well, let's make a deal. If I sell you wood for this price, then I get this. And they said, the wood's just lying here, let's sell it.
Yeah.
And within a few days, I sold, I think, 300 or 400 bags
That's
of wood.
Impressive.
And I just got into it. I just started making a business out of it now.
Yeah.
And God's good to us. I'm just been busy with it. Luckily, my work has picked up again. But this is now just like a hobby, keeping me busy.
Yeah.
Having me. And same thing, you were talking about the generators. I bought a generator because we're now in lockdown. And I just felt it on my heart that there's a market for it. And within a week, I sold 5 generators.
Wow.
So, I'm
So if you're listening to this and you need to sell something, just call DJ.
I'll sell it for you.
Sell it. So let's backtrack a bit. I mean, I mentioned that when I first met you, I was afraid, and we joked about that now. But I mean, physically, you appear like a badass kind of guy, and with that strength, there comes a point in your life where you realize, okay, I am strong. I can lift things, or I can hit someone, and I think
break things.
Yes, and growing up with brothers, we had a chat on our way to the Cederberg a few months ago, where you mentioned there was a time in your life where that strength, was kind of a bad point for you to, you kind of not misused it, but you didn't necessarily use it for good. And my question is, when did you transition from using this unusual strength for good rather than for bad things? Not necessarily bad. I'm saying bad with parentheses in, not that you did really bad things, but I think if someone looked at you funny and you decided you could quite knock them out if you wanted.
And I did.
And you did sometimes.
Unfortunately, I had a bad rap at a stage. Like I explained to you, I could walk up to anybody without thinking about it. I could knock him in the face. I could knock his teeth out without feeling bad the next day, without wondering what's happening with him. And yes, there was many times that I was in many fights in my life. I wasn't always just a bad guy. I helped many bullies. I think maybe that's one of the things that turned me around, because I started helping guys that were bullied. But I think at a later
sort of
stage,
like a Robin Hood type of. You take from the poor,
and then you
take from the rich and give to the poor.
Yeah, and then you become rich. So I think I then became the bully of the bullies. So I don't think it was always the best thing, But yes, many times that we decided that I'm not sure exactly. I think maybe it was my first time that I went onto the mountains. I had a very rough time. My wife wanted me to go to the mountains to do the 4th Musketeer. And there's so many things that happened on the way there. My car broke down 3 times.
That always happens.
I hit my hand right through the window. My testimony explains it, how the devil did not want me to go to that weekend, my car broke down, when you go through the Drakensberg, that last 20 kilometers when you go through that village.
Yeah.
And it's at night, at 8 o'clock at night, it's completely dark. There's no lights. There's no... You're in a village. You're in a rural black village.
Yeah.
And my car broke down next to the road. If I say broke down, my clutch cable came completely out, and I had no, And I was standing there outside, and a lady came to me, and she told me, "Listen, sir, you can't park here. It's very dangerous." And I was like, I was screaming, and like, "Take my car, take it, whatever you want to do, take it." And she just decided she was going to stand there and look after me. And I'm like, I weigh 130 kilograms, and you weigh 30 kilograms. Let's take it 50. What are you going to do for me? And she was standing there, and eventually, I got brake fluid in my boot. Like, I don't know how I got it. It was just there, and I was able to fix my car. And she told me, okay, she's leaving now, and I asked her, can I give you a lift, because she was carrying this big bag over her head. And I said, where are you going? She said, no, it's just down the road. And I said, okay, it's fine, get onto the road, and we started driving. And we were driving, and she was on her cell phone, and I'm getting this bad feeling like, oh, now she's telling her brothers or her cousins or somebody, listen, there's somebody coming with Danya with a red Golf. Let's take the car, and I just got this fear in my heart, maybe she's going to rob me, But I started a conversation talking to her and finding out, and at this stage we've been driving for like 10 kilometers, and I'm like, are you sure we're still driving? She says, yeah, it's just down the road. And we're driving. And then eventually we are 19 kilometers. She stops and says, you can just drop me off here. And she gives me a 10 rand. And she's like, thank you for the lift. This is what I would have paid for the taxi. And I'm like, no. And I opened my wallet, and all I have is 10 rand. And I was like, you take your 10 rand, and this is the 10 rand, thank you. But give me your cell phone number. Maybe I can do your e-wallet or something for standing by me and being there for me. Because it's a dangerous place. And she tells me, no, I just stood there because the Lord told me to stand there by you.
Wow.
And you know what? Now I'm driving this last 3 kilometers with a big hole in my window. It's like 4 or 5 degrees outside. My hand's bleeding. I've got a blister of the radiator that burned me. I'm in such a negative space. I don't know what to do with myself. And all this anger, I'm going into, with a bunch of men, we're going to walk or hike a weekend. And
a long weekend. Let's just say a long weekend.
A long weekend. But I think that's where, the same time that you experienced me, a lot of guys that weekend experienced my strength, my hatred. I'm not going to say hatred, but I had a lot of anger issues.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I went on to that men's weekend.
Yeah.
And I was walking around with a lot of power inside of me. The next morning, Jannie van die Kerk, one of the pastors, he asked me to do some body squats. And there was this big guy that was standing next to me. And he had these big legs, and we were putting guys on our backs. And he took this little guy, he's as big as about Thornton, and he put him on his back. And I said to these guys, I'll take the heaviest guy. And this guy came forward, and it was it's probably also about 110 kilograms, but he was hefty, and I put him on my shoulders, and we started doing body squats. And all this hate and anger and pain I was having, while 100 men were standing there, I put him on my shoulders and I did body squats. And I squatted him with about 10 squats. This guy tapped me on my shoulder and he said, you know what, I cannot believe that you out-squatted me. And I said, I don't know how I did it, but you know what, I did it.
Yeah.
And I think that weekend, coming off to it, that is the weekend that my heart changed.
Yeah.
And I decided that I want to use my power and my aura for good instead of bad.
Yeah. And I think on that weekend, the first part, you kind of measure yourself up to other people,
Every time.
I'm much smaller than you, but I also do the measuring. You see the other guys, this guy looks almost as tough as me, so I'm going to take him on.
Yeah, I can take him.
and the transition where you go from that brutal strength that you need to have, the brute strength, physical strength you need to have, to psychological and emotional strength, that transition is quite sudden, because you're in the moment of battle. I don't want to give it away, but you're in the moment of battle, and the moment you need to make a decision, the choice that needs to come through is a mental one and a spiritual one. So my next question is, from a standpoint where you kind of realized you can bench press a car or a truck or whatever, but how do you take that strength and turn it into a good strength? And do you think it's important for all men to be strong, not necessarily physically strong? I mean, it helps, but do you think it's good for a man to be strong in all aspects of life?
Well, Thornton, I think I realized that weekend that my strength actually doesn't come from me going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. I think I experienced the revelation from God that my strength comes from Him. And I decided that I would use my strength to help other men. I became part of 4th Musketeer that weekend when we were done. I actually, with all my strength that I had, Jannie van die Kerk came to me, he told me he thinks I'm the strongest guy. And we were coming down a mountain, and we had this little guy in our team. They called him Step Counter. It was a little midget. But he wore a wife beater. He thought he was as big as me, twice my size, twice the power I had, but he was with me. The 5 minutes into this weekend, he grabbed me on my arm and he said, "You know what? The words exactly as Chaya, to this weekend we together." Because he also comes from the south, and you know what? I didn't want to have anything to do with him. But it is hard and it's a challenging weekend. And after the first day, this guy was in terrible pain. He couldn't walk, and he couldn't do it anymore. And he started to swear God.
Yeah.
And never before has it ever bothered me, when people curse, maybe say the Lord's name in vain and stuff, but he was saying the Lord's name in vain in such a bad way that I wanted to take his head off.
Sure.
And another guy came to me, and he didn't have the power to do it, and he asked me, because I told him, and he came running to me and he asked me, "DJ, this is what this guy is doing, please come and just take him apart, do what you have to do."
Sure.
And I was on my way there to do exactly that, because I did not fear anything at that moment. I didn't care about my reputation. My reputation was to show people what I can do, and I wanted to show 100 men what I could do. And on my way to him, I fell and I broke my leg. I broke my, I want to say my femur, but it was my, it's a part just below your ankle, and I broke it in 2 parts. And I fell down this mountain at about 110 meters. I rolled down, and I was in so much pain, but I didn't show pain. I didn't drink tablets that whole weekend. I walked at least another 30 k's on a broken leg. And I just strapped my leg with duct tape, and I walked with the guys. At night, they offered to give me pain pills and say, "Listen, let's just drink some pain pills, because you cannot, you're going to get gangrene or something." And I just said, "No, I'm just going to walk with it." And the last 2-3 kilometers, I walked with Jannie van die Kerk. And we were hiking up, and he was, if anybody knows Jannie, this guy can hike, and he was walking and walking and walking. I was walking with his pace, and we were just walking. And that day, I got into my car, feeling, the Lord spoke to me in a different way, telling me, all your strength and all your might and all this that Thornton was talking about, that meant nothing when I came down that mountain, because I was still just a man and I broke my leg. I felt the Lord's presence like I've never felt Him before, and He told me, you know what, you are nothing without me. And I went home, driving from Podmedia, from where we do the Drakensberg, 500 kilometers with a broken window, and we came home, and I got into the bath and I started taking off the duct tape, and my wife thought I had gangrene. My leg was completely blue from my knee to all my toes on my right hand side. And the next day I went to the doctor, and the doctor saw me and he told me, you definitely got gangrene. I think you're going to have to put this leg down. And I told him, no, I've got no open wound. It's just, but because I was walking on a broken leg, I just did so much damage. But you know what? Until today, my leg is healed completely. I had to go for one operation in the same leg for a different, because I heard that, but I've never lost any toes. I never did, and I've done 9 XCCs after that one.
Sure. I'm glad there was smoke now from the Swedish torch, because I was tearing up, man. Because it's just amazing to hear that and realize. I mean, here you are, 130 k's. Your arms, I think if we measured, by that time your arms would have been as big as my legs. And here God just humbles you, and you're being humbled, and you change that strength. And I think that's the strength that men need today. Because you can be as strong as you want to. If they close the gyms during lockdown, you have nowhere to show your big arms. You have nowhere to show it. They close the pub so you can't impress girls. They even close the church so you can't go there. Because some people actually go there to try and impress people. And I think that's why I want to have this conversation. And that's why it's so wholesome to have this conversation with you. It doesn't matter about the size. It doesn't matter about the strength from on the outside. It matters on the inside. And the last question is how you would motivate others. But I think your story in itself is also quite motivating. But the question is, how would you motivate men, young or old, to start taking on their roles, a healthy role, to be physically strong, because I also believe that's important, but more strong on a mental side, someone who can make a Swedish torch, but also take care of his family. How would you motivate people to continue moving in their roles, or to actually start doing that?
Well, Thornton, I think a while ago, our pastor, he asked me to start sharing my testimony. And this is just part of my testimony, So, like I was saying, my pastor at our church asked us one day if I wouldn't mind sharing my testimony. And I started doing that. And during this time, me and my wife, we were just talking to Thornton and his girlfriend regarding, fighting and all stuff like that. And we've been through a really tough time in our life. We've been together for 14 years. We were married yesterday for 10 years. We could say being married for 10 years is like being underwater for 7 minutes. So I think how you change maybe a man's perspective about being a man is maybe when I share my testimony of where I come from. I think we as men, doesn't matter if you never had a father and your father never did this for you and your father didn't do that for you. I think the day that you become a man, you need to do what is right. What is right, and I think the Bible gives you guidelines of how you as a man should be. And I think sometimes it's hard, going through financial difficulties, being a father, being a husband, being an employee, being a son, being a worker. We as men need to stand together, and you need to let your heart be I think if I can say it, you need to be strong. But you don't need to be strong by showing that you can hit your hand through your fist through a wall. By maybe showing that you have compassion with other men that are going through the same situation. And you can tell them, this is how you act. This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever, what's the word saying, perfected it, you know. I've got it under my arm, but I'm still trying it today. And I think the Lord is my strength, and I ask Him every day that the Holy Spirit leads me, and that I never have to go back to the place, because it's so easy to turn your back on the Lord and go back, because it's easy living in this world, because it's just easier to say it's hard to walk the right road, and it's easier just to live life, just conform to this world. Me and my wife have been speaking about this for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, about just conforming to this world, and I think unfortunately that's not how life works. You need to honor God, love God with your whole heart, love people, because that is His second commandment. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. So I hope that motivates someone.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think hopefully we can start motivating and continue motivating people to go within to find the strength. I think that's the most important thing. If you can go inside and really check out your heart, that'll be awesome. And DJ, thank you so much. We are all going to eat a massive steak now and a few burgers that we made on the Swedish torch. You'll definitely see those photos. If you want some of this cool wood, you can call DJ, because he delivers.
Yeah, definitely. I can sell you anything. I'll sell you blitz as well. I'll come and make the fire.
Yes, that'll be awesome. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and God bless.
Thank you.
What a brunch. What a chat. What a guy. Please do follow the links if you want some interesting briarwood, or even make your own Swedish torch. Let us know. We'll deliver some nice briarwood for you. If you're overseas, I don't know, we can FedEx it or something. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Next up, episode 29. Have a good one. Stay safe. And please do wash your hands.